A meeting of the Caribbean Community Commission on the Economy was recently held, which issued a 12-point action plan and 4 concrete initiatives on how the bloc can work to recover from the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. To discuss this and other issues surrounding Caribbean integration, we now welcome the Ambassador of Barbados to CARICOM, David Comissiong. Ambassador, thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
Ambassador, COVID-19 has had a major impact on CARICOM members as nations that are dependent on tourism to a large extent. What are the key economic challenges ahead and how are member states planning to overcome them?
Well, our tourism industries have virtually collapsed. Governments are trying desperately hard to come with public health measures to deal with the pandemic. So there's a very real danger of a severe debt crisis. So the first thing that we are trying to do is to get through a message to the international community, all of the international financial institutions, the World Bank, the IMF, the Inter-American Development Bank, that our countries need help. We need debt relief. We need greater access to financing, concessionary financing. We need to revamp the rules that determine whether a country is entitled to concessionary financing or not. We are saying that these rules that have to do with gross domestic product per capita are irrelevant. We really need to be looking at the vulnerability of our economy. So there's a major push on to get this message through to the international financial institutions that they have to do more for small developing countries like ours. At the same time, we are doing what we can to help ourselves. The Caribbean community is an economic integration institution, a functional cooperation institution. So this commission on the economy was established even before COVID-19. It was established to come with some concrete proposals to help us to speed up economic growth and development in the Caribbean region. And so it has produced 4 very concrete proposals as a starter. And I guess the biggest of those proposals are that we have to energize, we have to create growth and development bonds. Right now, we have some $50 billion sitting in the bank accounts of the banks right across our community. The money of ordinary Caribbean citizens, of companies, institutions sitting in bank accounts, virtually gaining no interest. In fact, these days you pay the bank to keep your money. So we want to develop a new class of bonds, growth and development bonds, that will mobilize and leverage those savings for governments, and for governments then to make available to lending institutions. And what we want to do, we want to ignite a whole building boom. We are looking at how can individual citizens make their homes more climate resilient, resilient to hurricanes, resilient to climate change. How can communities become more resilient? How can countries become more resilient? So we are looking at working with the Caribbean Development Bank and our own Caribbean CARICOM Development Fund to put in place a whole new set of growth and development bonds. Secondly, we are looking at transportation because we are a region of islands, and we are looking at the possibility of a fast ferry system that we will integrate with the various small airlines that we have flying the routes in the Caribbean to see how we can have an integrated air and maritime system, to have a general transportation system that makes it more feasible to transport both goods and people across the region. So we have calculated approximately $50 million to get a fast ferry system off the ground. And that is going to be a joint public and private sector partnership. In addition, we have something called the CARICOM Skill National Program. This is where we permit movement of CARICOM citizens who have skills to move from territory to territory to live and work without the need for work permits. But it's a cumbersome system. So the Commission on the Economy has recommended that we simplify it and we make it available to any CARICOM national who has just 3 school leaving certificates, and we get rid of all the bureaucracy. You know, we put a stamp on their, we put a certificate on their cell phone. They show that certificate to an immigration officer, and they get automatic permission to reside and work. And finally, the 4th one has to do with how can we make it easier for financial institutions, banks and credit unions and other institutions that offer financial services to be established right across our region. Because right now, we are suffering from all of these anti-money laundering and financing of terrorism regulations that have been imposed on our region by the United States, by the European Union. And all of these regulations are making it very expensive, very difficult for Caribbean institutions, companies to set up business, to be involved in these kinds of businesses. So we are saying, look, we are going to set up one central certifying agency within the CARICOM region that will give one certificate that will cover all of these requirements to make it much easier for that kind of business to be set up, so that our businesses, our citizens can have greater access to credit. So these are the first 4 recommendations. It's a 10-person commission. 8 of those persons are from our community. The other 2 are from Nigeria. Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. She is the current Director General of the World Trade Organization. And Mr. Pascal Lamy from France. He's a former Director General of the World Trade Organization. The commission was headed by Dr. Avinash Prasad of Barbados. So a very powerful, high-level commission. And our heads of government are going to consider these 4 recommendations in July. Hopefully, we will have them implemented as soon as possible. And then we will look forward to another tranche of recommendations from this commission.
Ambassador, thank you very much for that overview. Turning now to the global health crisis, like other low and middle income countries around the world, Caribbean nations are suffering from the unequal distribution of COVID-19 vaccines and medical supplies. How is the bloc working to ensure that its members can protect their populations from this health crisis?
Well, where vaccines are concerned, you know, we are all part of the COVAX, the World Health Organization COVAX program. So we're getting some vaccines through that program. We also entered into collaboration with the African Union, and some of our countries have signed up to the African Union's medical supplies platform. The African Union has allocated 1.5 million vaccines to us through that program. We also were very fortunate. The government of India, some months ago, made some donations of vaccines that we shared among our member states, and some of us have signed up to the Cuban vaccine program, but of course the Cuban vaccines haven't come on stream yet. So at present, we are doing the best we can. Supplies are limited. We are not happy with the way in which wealthy and powerful countries have sought to monopolize the COVID-19 vaccines for themselves. We have spoken out against this. We have denounced this kind of selfish behavior. And in fact, CARICOM has been in contact with the World Health Organization, and we are demanding the holding of a global summit on this single issue of equitable access to vaccines. So we are being very proactive. We are doing the best we can to secure whatever vaccines are available to us. But at the same time, the situation is not really ideal. And we think that a global summit is merited so that we can all come together as a global community and work out a solution to this problem.
Ambassador, moving to another topic, there's been debate sparked recently regarding the Integrationist project of CARICOM and whether its founding principles are in fact dead. This especially following an incident last December at the Organization of American States in which divisions between some member states were brought to the fore. Also, the Trump administration had worked to sow division in the region, particularly around the issue of Venezuela, which we know has provided support to many Caribbean nations in terms of preferential access to oil supplies as well as other solidarity initiatives. Do you think the bloc is at a turning point in which it faces disintegration with the ideal of Caribbean integration threatened?
No, by no means. CARICOM has been in place, well, we can say from 1968. We started as CARIFTA and evolved into the Caribbean community in 1973. I think a lot of people don't understand how dense an integration mechanism CARICOM is. For example, CARICOM has 18 institutions and 7 associate institutions. So whether it's public health, it's agricultural development, it's the Caribbean Development Bank, it's the University of the West Indies, climate change. I mean, you know, we can go on and on. Functional cooperation is very well developed at the CARICOM level. Yes, the area that sometimes gives us problems is this area of the coordination of foreign policy. And sometimes the reason we get this problem is because of powerful outside entities that consciously attempt to divide CARICOM member states. And that is precisely what played out at the Organization of American States in that very unfortunate incident. This is an incident where 3 of our member states who are members of the Lima Group, who unfortunately are members of the Lima Group, in my opinion, because you know, I think that we have CARICOM, and I don't see why member states should be members of the Lima Group. But anyhow, unfortunately, they found themselves voting on a resolution that seemed to be attacking another member state. So it was very unfortunate. The issue did come up for discussion at the CARICOM heads of government in February, in caucus, obviously, as a private discussion. And so we recognize that is one of our areas of weakness because we can have powerful entities that come in among us and temporarily divide the family. But we are very, very conscious that we are, in fact, a family. We are one people. We have a common history. We have a common destiny. And so these kinds of hiccups will not derail our integration mechanism. It is too strong for that. At the same time, we have recognized that we need to be more proactive in identifying sensitive foreign policy issues that have the potential to cause divisions and tensions, to identify them early, to discuss them early, so that we can come to some consensus as to how we deal with them in a way that does not cause us any embarrassment. So we put it in perspective. It was regrettable, but within the larger perspective of what CARICOM is and what it means to us, it is a relatively minor incident.
Ambassador David Comissiong, thank you so much for joining us today and for offering your valuable insight into the challenges that are facing the Caribbean community today. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.